hearts and minds, thank you again for tuning in. We're here to discuss all things that have been on our hearts and minds, the good, the bad, the concerning and uplifting, or just straight talk. We're your hosts, Kimmy, our passionate heart,
yeah,
and me, Jeanette, our mind and chronic overthinker. Let's get into it.
yes, please, and thanks.
First things first, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm doing all right. This is a long weekend that we're actually recording, so I can't complain at all. It's a long weekend. It's family day weekend, so I'm gonna be off tomorrow. So I'm good. I'm good. How about
Okay.
you? How about yourself?
Great. Yeah, the long weekend couldn't have come at a better time. Really have been grinding. It's the week. I can't believe we're drawing near to the end of February. But generally all good. I haven't been as active in terms of like winter activities as I would like to.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're jumping into spring, so yeah. And before we can go on, just want to say Happy President's Day because our U.S. friends have a long weekend too. So
Okay.
hopefully you all enjoy your long weekend. So I will jump into headlines. We always like to start. We're in Ontario. We're in Toronto. We want to update our listeners that are in the same region as us. And so this week, Ontario government, Doug Ford, made a big announcement for people. A lot of people are excited. The Ontario government plans on removing the proof of vaccination system as of March 1st, as well as all capacity limits. I'm sure a lot of small businesses are going to be happy to hear that all capacity limits,
the ones that are left.
yeah. Oh, well, yeah. All the capacity limits in restaurants, bars, cinemas, and gyms will be lifted as of February 21st. So that's some good news for a lot of the businesses. So glad to see like some type of return to I hate that word normal, but some type of return to business as usual. So that was our update there. And also in terms of that, I forgot to mention, we didn't talk about this, but this Trudeau, he did the state of emergency, and this weekend Ottawa got swarmed by the police. The police weren't doing much, but they went in and people were arrested, and it looks like it got aggressive. So the only thing I'll say to that is the people of Ottawa who are suffering and losing sleep, hopefully this is good news for you. And I think that this movement served, I think the noise did something. I don't think it was in vain.
I'm hoping it did. I really am.
So
Yeah.
that was just an update there because a lot of coverage I saw from the U.S. side of things this week, and I was like, damn, this really, everybody's like, whoa, is this Canada? But
right?
Same way, it's like, yeah, we appreciate our freedoms in this country as well. So moving on, okay, so did you see the story with the Russian figure skater? So I haven't been watching the Beijing Olympics. I'm kind of in silent protest, and however, I did see the news of a Russian figure skater, and if you know anything about Russians when it comes to figure skating, in gymnastics, they got that on lock. They just do it different. They look very beautiful and elegant on the ice, and when it comes to those type of sports. And so the Russian figure skater, her name is Kamila Valieva. Let me say it in my Russian accent. So she tested positive for a banned substance. It's like a heart drug called trimethazine, which increases blood flow to the heart. And so when this was announced,
dangerous.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about the drug, but it's obviously some type of enhancement. And the reason I heard about this was not because of watching and I was hearing anything that was going on, but on February 14th, Sha'Carrie Richardson, which we talked about on an episode of Hearts and Minds around the Summer Olympics. We all know the track runner who got banned from the Olympics for smoking marijuana. So on February 14th, after, I guess it was a few days after it was announced that she was, Valieva was going to be suspended for the substance in her system, she appealed. So she appealed and she won, and she was able to skate knowing that there was a performance enhancing drug. The caveat there was, as they did their second round of testing, that there would be no medal ceremony if she did place or anything like that, right? So on February 14th,
she got to compete.
that alone. But so Richardson tweeted on February 14th, "Can we get a solid answer on the difference of her situation and mine?
Please and thanks.
My mother died and I can't run, and was also favored to place top three. Okay. Pause. I'm calling cap there. Okay, moving on. The
Mm.
only difference I see is I'm a black young lady. Girl, you gotta have something there. And so she tweeted that on the 14th. And then the
Mm-hmm.
response, the IOC responded, and to me it was a shady response as far as I'm concerned. Their response is, to her, is Richardson's positive doping test was discovered on June 19th, and the result was received before the start of the Olympics. She was suspended for a month. There is nothing in common between the two cases. I think that's shady. That response is very shady. It's not.
That's
It's very
to me.
unaccountable.
Yeah, well, that response doesn't seem like it factors in much. You know
No.
what I mean? Like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't look at the particulars of the two situations. It just seems like it's right off the cuff, like right
Mm.
off. Like it's you and I'm sorry, but I kind of agree with Miss Richardson. I kind of do because what is really the difference? When we did speak about this previously in our episode, I said the rules are the rules. Like, I know the rules are meant to be broken. I get that. However, when you're trying to everybody be on some sort of even playing field and then excel in their own rights, then anything to alter that is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Point blank. So if she has something in her system, she should face the same consequences as a few months ago, like what, less than a year ago, that Richardson had to face. So to kind of, I don't know, I don't like that statement.
And it's
I don't
very
agree with it at all.
I find it very dismissive. I think
Very.
they could have gone into the details, because I was listening to a radio interview, and they were basically interviewing the Canadian anti-doping person, some specialist into that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of breaking down, and the interviewer asked him, like, what's the difference? Right? So we got the dismissive answer from the IOC, but he kind of broke it down, and essentially, if, like, they did mention, it's the timing, right? So basically the girl was already there by the time they got that positive result, and she already placed, like, she had already skated, right? And that they had to do another sample test. So, like, I think they do two samples when they test. So say one sample is contaminated and they need to test the B sample. So I'm like, okay, well, even that's still kind of, I still am side-eyeing that, but at least that, I feel at the very least, the IOC should have went into those details, into those procedures, because to me, this is very dismissive off the cuff. If I
Very,
didn't happen to
very much
catch,
dismissive. And on top of that, I feel like in terms of the media's attention on it,
yeah, they
I
should.
feel like it's like vastly different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the girl smoked a joint and they went for her neck. You
Mm,
understand what I'm saying? Even when she did try to appeal, even when she did try to plead,
mm-hmm.
went right over a lot of people's heads. It was like, nope, and that's that. But now we see this situation, and it's almost like, okay, well, we have to say it and make it public knowledge, but the emphasis, like, who's coming for this girl's neck?
Yeah, and I do want to caveat, if anybody who doesn't really know this story, the skater is very young. She's only 15, so I'm
And
not,
that's even,
and it's
I'm
very
sorry.
sickening. Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you, but when you said her age, what dawns on me
Mm-hmm.
is that this is a young girl that you
Mm-hmm.
are using any
Mm,
sort of enhancement on.
mm-hmm.
Naturally, younger people's hearts beat faster. Naturally, then when they are involved with athletics, do you want her to have a heart attack while performing? Because I'm just saying, if you're enhancing her heart speed, or the amount of blood that is
Mm-hmm.
circulating in her heart.
Yeah.
It's dangerous for a young child like that. Like, she's still a baby. She's still a baby. So I just wanted to point that out, that at her age, there should be none of this in her system
Yeah.
at all. Period.
She already has an advantage with her age, but that's another thing with the Olympics and a silent protest. Like, Russia has been pulling stunts for a while, and I feel like the IOC, or whatever, the Olympic Committee, they need to really just, like, honestly, they can't even have their athletes there, or do some double
No,
testing. I don't know, but they're
Russia's pockets are running deep nowadays,
yeah.
because I'm sorry, where my boycott of the Winter Olympics. First of all, I don't really like the Winter
Yeah, you're
Olympics. I'm
sad,
not
yeah.
really into it. I said that already.
Mhm.
Second of all, like, for me to actually get into it, I find that there's so much more politics
Politics,
around it.
yeah.
There's so much more politics, and I think it's because Russia aims to win. Period. There's no half win. There's no, oh, we got second. No, it's either first or that's it. And so I don't know. Their pockets must be running deep, and they must be helping out the Olympics in some sort of way,
Yeah.
or lining some sort of pockets up in this, because this just doesn't sit right with me. And so when Richardson, back to the initial comment, and then I'm done with this because I don't really think she was the right messenger.
But she has a point. She does have
a point, but I think you should have asked one of your homegirls to make that post.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, she does have a point. So I will give her that. And we see this in Olympics, and we see this in sports in general.
Yeah.
That there is very much a disadvantage, like going into the actual sport or at a real level, whether it's the NBA, the NFL, the whoever, the Olympics, there always seems to be like some sort of extra edge that Black people have to attain. Like we have to have that excellence going in. We can't fumble. We can't have not a drop of herb in our system, because if we do, like, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right. Yeah, we'll move on, but it's I actually feel sorry for that young lady, and I don't even know what to say. Russia's just corrupt. I'm just going to say it point.
Pretty much.
Get it together, Russia. Run deep. Stop doing this to your young athletes.
It's ridiculous because you're scarring people.
Okay, so I will go on to the next story. So, do you remember those Miss Cleo commercials, or what do we call them? They'd come on late at night from Miss Cleo. Call me now.
Yes.
Remember Miss Cleo? Okay.
Yes, I remember Miss Cleo.
So, interesting development. So, they are making a documentary about her.
Really?
And so her real name is Ure Del Harris, and I know she has since passed. But her actions became the center of a multi-million-dollar fraud investigation.
Wow.
And her claim to fame, as we know, is why she was so popular with those psychic hotlines, was she claimed to be a shaman, or as we call them, a hobia woman, from Jamaica. And her charisma and famous imperatives enabled the Psychic Readers Network, a pay-per-call service, to charge callers seeking answers over $100 billion for advice. So through this woman, they profited over almost $1 billion. That's a lot. Damn.
She is definitely, Miss Cleo is like the face.
She was the face, exactly.
This. Like, she is the face. She is the brand of this. Like, I remember back in the day when I was younger, and I was always like, why are we calling this Cleo? How come she knows? And then it turned into a joke.
It was a joke.
But there are billions. Wow.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that number myself. So the Psychic Readers Network cashed in on her character. That's all I gotta say.
Definitely.
And so in 2002, everything came crashing down when the Federal Trade Commission accused the network and its owners of deceptive advertising, billing, and collection practices, bringing Miss Cleo's reign as Queen of Clairvoyance to a dramatic end. So why she disappeared, I guess, is they got in trouble. They found out, if you're Jamaican, you already knew this lady was a character. She's not Jamaican, first of all, and even the way she talked, it was funny. But
it was a joke. That's why it turned into like the biggest meme of like the 90s /
yes, call me now.
Right, the biggest meme, if you want to call it that. It's a joke. Everybody
it was a meme before memes came. But
right.
What I appreciate about this, and before we move on to our next story, is she kind of got, when they came down, everybody was looking at like, we're like, she's a scam artist, but it's like we're putting it on her, but really it was a company, the Psychic Readers Network, that was frauding everybody and pushing this character and this narrative and everything. And also it wasn't just her not being real, but it was the practices of their billing and stuff. So they were doing some bad business at the end of the day, but she kind of was the face, and she kind of kind of took that fall, right? So I'm glad that they're going to show her story, and really it was a business, a corporation was the evil person. She was just a character. So it'll be interesting to see what narrative comes out of that. So yeah, we'll look out for the Miss Cleo documentary coming out
Yes,
soon.
I want to see it. Yes.
Okay, next. So Miss Monique. I'm not going to spend too long on here, but Miss Monique, we've talked about Monique here. The lady, the etiquette lady, the no bonnets lady, the
you know what I'm saying?
actress and comedian extraordinaire.
Yes.
She was on T.S. Madison this week. I saw a clip and I shared it with Kim, and basically it was just interesting because again, it was the same. Well, first of all, it was the same old story we've been hearing for the past 10 years or so about her being blackballed. We all know that story. But she did say something that was interesting, and I'm going to say a piece of it. So basically, the interviewer was asking her, have you since had a conversation with Tyler Perry? Because Monique had shared a video or a clip of Tyler Perry saying, like, he actually apologized on that clip and said, there's no, essentially apologized and said, yes, you were kind of done wrong in so much.
Right.
That's pretty much what he communicated, right? I'm probably not saying the words exactly, but that's what I got from what he was saying. That was definitely clear. And so she did make this comparison, which I felt was weird. So I guess people were trying to link her and Tyler Perry back together. And so I'm going to quote what she says on the story. That then he calls back and says, I will meet with Monique, but not with her husband. Fair enough. And then she had to apologize. And then she has to apologize to me and Oprah Winfrey for saying we had anything to do with ruining her career. Now that was recent. So basically that was what Tyler Perry was saying. Those were his stipulations to kind of have a conversation with her. So obviously she was turned off. And then so toward the end of the interview, so basically people are asking, why don't you let this go? Why don't you thing or whatever? So her response was, oftentimes when it comes to a black woman, speaking up and speaking out goes unheard until she dies. Then once she dies, then we go back and say, well, she was right, and let's make a movie about it. She said that, so that was her quote, which we're going to discuss in a second. Yeah. She said in the midst of her lawsuit, I had to stand. So she was just going back to talking about her lawsuit. So yeah, let's leave it there. And so I do think with that quote and what she said, if you guys are curious, you could go look up the T.S. Madison interview with Monique to kind of take a better look, and because she did give the dramatic. She was giving a performance, okay, honey? But I get what she was saying where, a black woman kind of speaks up for herself, and she compares herself to Eartha Kitt, which, we know Eartha, I don't know if you know, but Eartha Kitt does have a similar story where she was blackballed, but it was serious. Like, this was like the government, okay? Not just Hollywood. Like, this was like a whole government thing. So I get what she's saying and where she goes, but I think we're hearing Monique. But we're also at that point, I hear you, Monique, you were done wrong, and no doubt you were done wrong. However, why is it that we can't move on? Like, why are we still hearing the same story? That's my question.
Right. Well, at this point, she's just stuck on that story. So that's why I feel like it's hard for us to stray away from it, because that is the last of what we've seen and heard from Monique. We haven't seen her in any movies to talk about it. We haven't seen her doing stand-up comedy really for people to talk about it. So she's riding the wave. It's just the wave is real small at this point.
This wave is done.
It's about to die out, into the sand. But for me, when you sent me this clip, the first thing I was like, oh, here we go again. Okay. Now, when it first dropped, I want to go back to 10 years because she's looking for attention. So I'm going to give her a little bit. And that is when she said it initially 10 years ago, I was about it. But then she took it left, where she's expecting people to just boycott this and boycott that. And with boycotting for you, we'd also, other people will have to suffer for your good,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and there's other ways for you to go about it where you can focus and emphasize on what you plan to do to boycott. And if people ride the wave with you, they do. But
Mm-hmm.
at this point, it's like, I need you to do something. Instead of going on this hobo tour, like going from this to that to this to that to talking about this for 10 years, in that time, I needed to see action from you, Monique, such as producing your own film.
Please, I would love for, even if she doesn't want to do a film is a big leap.
Okay.
Do a comedy special, please.
Just like you did Queens of Comedy. That made you enough money. That gave you enough notoriety. And so there's so many things that she could do other than sitting and talking. Now let's bring this forward to today when she's talking as a Black woman. What I feel like is, yes, what you're saying is true. We stand up for ourselves and it falls on a lot of deaf ears. But I found that when Black women talk and then they have a follow through, their words are actually heard. It's unfortunate that we have to do that, and that they can't just be heard like, say, our counterparts who are other races or other minorities or whatever. Us Black women, we have a harder time to be heard. And so people hear us when we move. When we move and we make a big leap into something and stand firm in what we believe in, that's when we get heard. Now, the stand that you need to make is you need to crash the industry. Do what you got to do. Produce your own film, even if it has to, it doesn't do as well at first, but make your own way where you do the boycotting. You don't worry about everybody else and keep talking about the same damn thing. We need to see you move, girl. And at this point in time, it's just the same rhetoric over and over and over again. And it's like, I understand what you're saying, Monique. Now what?
Now what? Exactly.
Because I don't see the now what. I see that you need attention still from 10 years ago. And now you're just bouncing from interview to interview, talking the same thing, because that's all you got to say. That's it. That's where we left your career. You know what I mean? And you're still on that ending of your career. Well, you need to make a new beginning, girl, because I'm tired. I'm tired, Monique. And then when you're not doing this shit, you're going into airports trying to judge other Black women. Like, what? Girl.
What you're not going to do. I'm going to need you not to come back to the public
and
eye with that.
When you think about that, I'm just going to get deep into that just for 1 second. But when you think deep about that, in one breath, you're saying that you're blackballed. So that means that you're saying that in this industry, they're judging you just based off of something you said or whatever, the fact that you're standing up for yourself. But yet you take your judgmental self into the airport and judge other Black women because they want to wear a bonnet.
Yep.
And then go online on your little piece of platform that you have left that is not listening to you whine and complain about something that happened 10 years ago. You want to judge the Black women that would go see your show.
Right?
That would go pick up a ticket just to support another Black woman who, if we side with you, or even if a little bit, even to just say, yo, I'm going to support the Black queen. I'm just going to do that. Okay? Now you're judging that audience, that demographic. Yet you're saying that people are judging you. Isn't that the irony at its core? But anyway, kudos to you, Monique. But can we see you do something, please, ma'am? Please, I need you to do something within your own power. What, you don't got the money? What is that? What we're doing now? We're going on T.S. Madison? Really? Like we're going from interview to interview to get attention to what? But I will say one thing and then I'm done. What I found very strange was that he didn't want her husband there.
I don't think that's
I know her
strange at
husband,
all.
He manages her and stuff, but I don't know. I felt two ways about that. First, he could be a loudmouth and someone who doesn't offer calm in the storm or doesn't offer a mediation between two parties. You know what I mean? Maybe that's it. But in the same breath, what, you want her alone because if a black man is supporting her, she might not want to hear what you gotta say. Like, what does that mean? Like, why can't her husband be there?
Well, I think he kind of her husband. Like, I think we already like he her husband does have a. I think her husband is a lot of the reason why she's not getting gigs. But the rumor is that like her husband is like controlling. Is very like he's her manager, right? But he's
Right.
kind of he's kind of putting her in a bad situation. That's kind of like the husband is the one trying to run things. And maybe he's rubbing people the wrong way. Like, people will forgive and probably want to work with Monique, but I think her husband, who just came out of nowhere, like, that's her husband, great, but people are just like, who is this guy? Like, really, who's this guy?
Right.
There's no respect for him, and he's having a lot of mouth. That's what it seems like.
Right.
So, but I understand what you're saying, but he does, like, I think her husband is a big problem in terms of her career, to be honest.
Well, maybe you need to drop him. But as your manager, just do something.
She has to do something different,
please.
But because that's her husband, it's hard. But I think if it was anybody else, he probably would have been gone. But you see, that's the thing when you kind of mix your personal
business and pleasure. Yes.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we'll leave that there.
Yes.
So
because I can't with Monique right now.
No. Yeah. So we were talking about Wendy Williams last week. And actually this week, funnily enough, there was two videos or a video and a picture that I saw that came out this week. One first was a video of her in Florida walking around, and somebody was just talking to her, and she was answering questions. She seemed very cognizant to me. Like, Wendy's always kind of quirky and we've seen her interviews on TV. She's always a little bit offbeat. So, I mean, typical Wendy as far as I was concerned in that video. And then there was a picture of her and her father on his birthday. He turned 92, and she was with him there, and she's sitting down and she was walking on the beach. And so this makes me wonder. This is now making me wonder because I was shocked to see her standing up and walking on the beach and talking.
I know she's not dead in a wheelchair.
Because when we were seeing her in a wheelchair and everything, I was like, well, so now I'm wondering, was she trying to look like an invalid for legal reasons? I'm thinking that's what I'm thinking. I don't know,
but then that would prove remember what they were trying to say, that she's not competent to have her own money. Why would she be rolling around I don't know.
That's why. Okay, so my theory. This is just my theory. I'm making up in my head, listeners. I'm just making it up in my head.
Don't come for us, please. Thank you.
Please. There was obviously something was definitely wrong. Whether it was health, drugs, whatever, right? So we know something was wrong. She couldn't go back to her show. But I feel like but you remember at the end of the day, it's her show, but she's working for a company. She's working for a network. There's legal documents. There's everything, right?
Yeah.
So for them to hold the show for her, she does need to validly be in a situation where she can't.
Right.
She can't come to work.
But they're sounding like they're not trying to hold it.
No, I know. Fair enough. It's been a long time. That's fair. I think it's gone on long enough. It's like, how long can we do this? Is it permanent? Like, we don't know what's going on. Maybe they don't even really know what's going on, because I feel like if they knew, it would have been leaked. So I don't think officially they know what's wrong. She's just claiming health issues, right?
Right.
But now I think maybe she was just. I do think something's wrong and she needed that time, but she wasn't needing to be in no damn wheelchair and looking all decrepit.
Just extra.
She was looking like it looked now. After seeing the video I saw this week and how she looked like weeks ago when we were like, "What's going on?" I'm like,
But then you see, like, my mind goes in a different direction. Is this a ploy, Wendy?
That's what I'm saying.
Is this a ploy to keep us interested in you?
Oh no, I don't think that.
I don't know, but it's like, you have to think twice, because that's the thing, is that one thing Wendy is really good at is creating buzz. That's how she came to be who she is today, is by creating buzz. Now, I'm not going to say that by any means she wants to cause drama in her own life to stay relevant, but it just doesn't feel right I know that there was something wrong. I know
Yes,
there
we
was
know that.
something wrong.
Hmm.
I could see in her face, even
Hmm.
in the wheelchair and all of that, something wasn't right. However, it's like, why aren't you saying anything? Why
Yeah.
aren't you publicly making a statement to clear up everything? It just, I don't know why you wouldn't. Like, we're not talking about a woman who wouldn't have people's attention. People are wondering, why aren't you saying something, Wendy? What's really good? Are
Hmm.
you with your faculties? Do you have all your faculties, Gretchen?
I was happy
Please.
to see those videos. She was looking really good. She seemed together. So I'm very
Like,
happy to
there's
see
so
that.
much popping in this woman's life. And
So
okay, if it was anybody else, maybe they wouldn't have to say anything. But this is Wendy Williams. Your whole show is about to change over to Sherry Shepherd. Like, what the hell? We need you to say something, Wendy. Please,
maybe
please
this
and
is her way
thanks.
of saying something. This is her way of saying it. I'm not an invalid. I'm not thing. Here I am. Here I am walking around, talking, having a conversation.
I don't know, girl.
But yeah, so moving on. So I just have one bit of music news, and I was just gonna
Yes.
take we'll just do a brief review of the Super Bowl halftime
Halftime
show.
show.
And
Bomb.com. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was like a throwback to the early 2000s. So it was like pretty. It was really good. It felt short, and then I was like, it felt shorter. Than, is it me or is it just short? But I think it was shorter than normal. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
somebody said, I don't know why, but it was definitely shorter than normal. I feel like there was more planned, but they didn't do. Like supposedly there was supposed to be a Tupac hologram.
Oh,
That
well,
wasn't there. That
they did have Callie,
they did play it, but that's why I feel like they were supposed to have it, but maybe something happened because the
yeah,
performance did seem kind of cut off. Like it seemed short.
right.
Yeah, kids started with Snoop and Dre, Snoop crip walking,
Mm-hmm.
and like Snoop's always gonna get a party started. So that was really cool, and he was wearing his crip blues.
Yep. Yeah,
um,
with a touch of yellow. Mm-hmm.
and then Dre, and then Mary came on, and then the surprise was 50. 50 surprise. I was pleasantly surprised
Yes.
to see
Well,
50.
50, it did put pants on weight.
That's okay. 50 is
It is
almost
okay because I can see him turning that into muscle like
exactly.
immediately. Yeah.
He's living good. He's not he's not performing anymore. That's okay. He's enjoying his wealth. And then but it
Didn't
was
he
cool.
file bankruptcy the other day? I'm sorry.
Did
Anyway,
he? I
yeah.
didn't know that.
I feel like, yeah, I believe so. I think he had to file bankruptcy or something on some of his business adventures. But
Oh, okay.
anyway, but go on. 50 has it like that. We can
Yeah.
see it. Look at him.
Yeah, so he, and it was a good throwback to the in the club video, because you remember that song had the club on lock for a good
Lock.
2 3 years, actually three
Yep.
years. It still does. If that
It
song
still
comes on
does.
in
I
the
was just
club,
going to say that.
it's gonna
Yeah.
get buck wild. Okay,
Yes,
that
that's
was an
when it's
amazing.
going. That's when it's going down. It's going down when it comes on. Yeah. No, well, it's whoever made that beat. I
It was
forget the
Dre.
name.
That Dre made that.
Oh, it was Dre. Sorry, what am I saying? It was Dre. Duh.
Yeah.
Keep with it, Kim.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So and
Yes.
then Miss Mary J.
Yeah,
Blige.
but
Okay,
at the end, I was like, "What's poppin', Mary?"
I was kind of mad that she didn't do her Mary two step, but I'm okay. I'm okay. She did a great job. And then my favorite, Kendrick Lamar,
My
came on.
favorite was Kendrick. I was like, he just leveled up every single rapper in the game. He leveled them up
Mhm.
because he had a fully choreographed
And he
dance
was dancing too. I was like, what?
and
What?
formation around him.
And then
I was
finally,
like, okay, Kendrick, this is what we're at. He's so creative.
yeah. Well, he's been, we know what Kendrick's gonna give. Kendrick's always gonna give
Yes.
us a dramatic performance. He's always gonna give us looks. He's always gonna give us drama. And then Eminem. I think
Yeah.
Eminem came in after him.
Lose yourself. Mm-hmm.
He did that.
I was saying to my fiance that
Mm.
he's one of the white boys that I'm telling you, I mess with that guy right here. He can rhyme his ass off. Like,
Mhm.
honestly, a lot of people in the game are intimidated by him, and I could see why.
As
Like,
he
he's
should.
lyrically, he's a
Yeah,
beast.
yeah.
Like,
Lyrically, he's a beast.
he's a beast. Yeah.
And
But he did a
then,
good job
yeah, he did a
too.
good job. And people were calling attention to the fact that he kneeled. Personally, when I watched it, I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it as anything. I thought
Oh, really? I noticed it. I was like, oh,
you
okay.
got the message. I did not get the
Yeah.
message. I thought he was just
Especially
closing out his
since when he had his
performance.
head down.
Yeah, see, it
With
was until
Kaepernick. Yeah.
after. Then I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like some people were like, I mean, to me, it's like doing something after the fact. You know what I mean? Great that you did it, even though they told you not to do it. Like, I
It
don't
was
really
nice. It was a nice.
gesture.
It was a nice gesture,
and it's just a gesture.
And it's just a gesture. But you know what? Like, again, I'm not an advocate for Eminem. Let's not get it twisted. But he's in the culture. Like he's well into the culture. He's mixed up and mesh up and blend into the culture. And so for him to make that gesture, it was nice.
Yes. Okay, so that was the review. It was amazing. There was some like negative, like, you know, the NFL, the Super Bowl, as we've seen many times, they're very conservative. They're very like, people are like, oh, what is this? We're celebrating gangsters. We're selling. This is the culture, okay? People, stay mad. This is what it is. This is like what your kids are listening to, okay?
This is what your children are listening to, okay? Because as soon as Eminem came on, I saw, yes, okay, they were dead. Yeah. So white boy, white woman, dead. Black people, everybody was just mixed up and blend. Yeah. And I think that's nice. Yes. That's nice where there doesn't have to be division.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so that's it for headlines. Let's get into our first segment, and that is Wagwan for real.
Wagwan for real.
So speaking of the NFL, we were just talking about the Super Bowl. This story started kind of, like, I heard of this story like late January, early Feb, but I'm just talking about it now because, well, just talk about it now because this is when we have time to do it. So, okay, so Brian Flores, I'm sure I've been hearing this everywhere, but Brian Flores was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. And he was coaching there for more than a decade. Well, he's been coaching in the NFL for more than a decade. He's fairly young. And anyway, he was fired as the Dolphins head coach after 3 years in early January, even though his contract was supposed to be 5 years. So he was fired. So while he was the head coach on that team, he increased their win-loss ratio. So each year you could see there was more wins and losses as he was a coach. However, they never made the playoffs. So that's one thing. Usually, you know, a lot of these coaches are based on performance. They'll hire a coach because they want to go, you know, win a champion. You know, we know how the game goes. So normally we'd understand. But the fact that he was increased, you know, he came on, he did what he's supposed to do. Like, you're not going to make it to the playoffs till you get more wins, right? And he was getting them more wins. He said during that time, he was bribed multiple times by management, or the people attempted to bribe him multiple times to throw games.
Wow.
For
offering 100,000.
Yeah, allegedly 100,000. And so after his firing, so he was fired, and then supposedly he was up for a job. I believe it's the New York Giants, I think. I can't remember the team, but I think it's the New York Giants. So
the Giants, yeah.
Yeah. And so he was offered, he had an interview coming up, and so he got a text message from the New England Patriots head coach. I can't remember his name right now, but everybody knows him because he's Patriots and Tom Brady. But he got a text from him. Oh, Bill Belichick. I think it's Belichick. And so the man said, "Oh, congratulations." So he's up for an interview, and he gets a congratulations before he has the interview. Weird, right?
Big time weird.
So basically, he responded, and he was like, "Is this you have the right person?" And so then he's like, "Oh, sorry, you're wrong, Brian." So it was another Brian. It was another Brian, the white Brian. And so it was Bill Belichick. So that's how we figured it out. So on the first day of Black History Month, Mr. Flores said, "Not today."
Not today.
And so he filed a suit on the first day of Black History Month. And, you know, his reasoning is he's saying He wants to shine a light on the racial injustices that take place inside the NFL. Personally, to me, like, you don't need to shine a light. We've been new. We've been
right.
Like,
yeah, but I guess you know what? Now we have proof.
We have proof. We have like documented proof from based on his story, and so they have something called and he calls out the Rooney Rule. In his lawsuit because
Stupid
basically the Rooney Rule was created to kind of create more opportunities for black not just black coaches, any people of color, including black people. And one point I want to make as we're talking further, we have to understand the NFL, the players make up 70%, 70+% of the players.
Plus, almost 75% of the NFL they're black.
They're black players. Okay, that's something I wanna highlight. There's other players, but like 70%, right?
That's a lot.
The Rooney Rule was created to have teams. It was a requirement. It made it a requirement for teams to interview ethnic minority candidates for head coaching and senior football operation jobs. So that's what the Rooney Rule is. And so basically what I get, like, I didn't go through the whole document, and there's a great article on NPR and video outlining the whole case, and there's a video with Brian Flores. I would encourage you to watch. It's very interesting because he brings in the conversation of, you know, why he's doing this, because this could be career suicide, just like Kaepernick. This could be career suicide for him, but he's stepping out on faith and doing this, right? And so he basically is like, okay, now he's figured, they just called me into this interview because they need to enact the Rooney Rule. They just have to interview or say they interviewed a minority person, in this case a black person, for the job. But they already knew well ahead of time who they're going to hire based on that text message, right?
That's right.
And so Bill Belichick, damn, you really...
Man, really that right there was a career suicide, if you ask me.
You ask me, he gave the man all the proof that he needed
to go full steam ahead. And exactly what needs to be proven has been proven in his text. You wouldn't say congratulations, number one, if you didn't already know that person was going to get the job. And if that's the case, then you should have called up the black Brian and said, nobody come to the interviews. We found who we want.
Yeah, so that's kind of the crux of the case, mostly. I'm sure, like, the things he's mentioned, the bribing, he's mentioned, like, being fired from other coaching jobs or whatever. But I think with that text message alone, that says a lot, right? So I think really what I would say out of this is, like, I feel like what needs to happen is they need to go a step past the Rooney Rule. Forget the Rooney Rule.
Of course.
Don't interview. You can interview whoever you want, but if the owners and managers already know who they want to hire, then no. So the NFL needs to do a little bit more in terms of actual roles. Just like today, like, unfortunately, ever since George Floyd, I know some companies have always had progressive diversity rules in making sure that, you have different, no matter race, disability, sexual orientation, all those things. They always take that into account in the makeup of their workforce. And so the NFL looks like they need to do that too. Like, they don't.
That's right.
There's just too much over-representation of white men. That's it.
Who are billionaires,
who are very, very rich, and have some of them it's nepotism. Their family is
definitely
like, there's a whole bunch of nonsense going on there, and
it very much gives me plantation vibes. Like, it very much gives me this is a different form of slavery. You know why I feel like this is a walk on for real? Why did that coach send that text? Walk on, dear.
There wouldn't be a case without that text, right?
We wouldn't be having this conversation. This guy wouldn't be, and to be honest, the black Brian Flores, he has very much proof that could win him a lot of money, and he probably wouldn't have to play or entertain football in this realm anymore. Maybe he could do high school football or something like that, but he's sticking it to the NFL. I just want to be honest about it. He's sticking it to it because he got fired His contract wasn't even up. He got fired and let go from the Dolphins, and then now this happens.
Well, there has been an update, two updates. So because I took a while to talk about this case. There's been two updates since the whole initial lawsuit has come out. That is really interesting. Now that's really going to be the Wagwan for real.
Okay.
First of all, the NFL with their bright self, they went and hired a former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and maybe if you can't guess, that's a black woman.
Of course,
to defend them in the case against Brian Flores.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I feel like this is like, y'all fighting dirty. Y'all are fighting
they're fighting real dirty.
You're hiring a black woman for a racial discrimination lawsuit.
So it couldn't have been a Chinese woman or an Asian woman of some kind. No, they made sure that she was black. So now you're fighting. There's so much energy that's involved in that.
Yes,
now it's a black man and a black woman who are fighting for who? You know what I mean? So that these white men can stay rich. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel. And
the other update,
you know what? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, the other. Yes.
Okay.
Please,
the other update, which is news for him, good news for. I don't know. I would say it's bittersweet. He has since been hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So unlike my worry for him was that he would have ruined his career in the NFL. Yeah. He was hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers still after filing the lawsuit. Okay, but I think this is tactics. So we're going to discuss, but let me tell you, he got hired for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach. And I'm going to tell you now, I don't know a lot about football, but that is a step down from head coach. I definitely know that.
Yes.
I don't need to be an expert.
I don't need to be up in it like that to know that. No, it definitely is a step down. Definitely. But it's like, if he takes that job, it's a catch-22 for him. Yeah. Because if he takes the job, it's almost like he's taking what they throw out at him to shut him up.
He has taken it.
Oh, he did take it. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what that is right there. So they threw you a position so that you'd shut up. So I hope you're not going to stop this lawsuit.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think what I saw was that he's still... well, I haven't seen that it's been canceled. So, So I'm assuming that it's
now it's going to go under the hush. Now it's going to go under the hush.
Because
if we don't find out now what's popping in the next couple of weeks, if he's going to still stick with this.
Okay, yeah. So I actually just saw the headline. It's still going forward. So it's remaining in place. So I commend him. So he's got himself a job.
Good.
And he's still going to move forward because based on what I saw his interview on the NPR, like I said on the NPR site, he is doing this very much on principle. He could have easily been paid off. He could have easily been a typical shuck and jive. I understand, all these players who don't speak up, they're just, they just want to jeopardize their livelihood. And I understand that fear. So for him to do this already took a lot of courage, especially going after the NFL.
Right?
So I commend
the
him
entire organization.
And even though they're playing tactics on him, I commend him because he's like, you guys want to throw this? Yeah, give me the job and I'll take it. This case ain't going nowhere.
And that was the point that I wanted to see. So I'm glad that you gave me that update because I was thinking, please, and Tanks, please, you cannot give up the fight because what you will be saying is, oh, well, they throw you a job and you'll shut up. So, we don't want that to be said. So he has to keep it going, which I'm glad he is. And he's not, turning his back on that because he got a job. So it doesn't look as though he just made a stink so that he could get a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's how the media will kind of spin it.
Yes.
So I'm glad he's sticking with it. Good job.
Yeah, so best of luck, Brian, and I hope this case goes through and that we're going to see some real change in that, and not the interview. Forget the interview in the actual hiring process. We need the change of what's going on there because it's looking very slavish.
Yes, very much so.
It's looking very plantation like.
A real plantation like. This is like 2022 plantation style, see?
But yeah, so
Too
that's it.
much. Yes, okay, well we're gonna move on into the call out.
It's
It's
the
the call out.
call.
Here is where we put each other into the hot seat by asking some questions. So it is Black History Month.
Hmm.
And we are coming to the end of it.
Yes.
And as short as it is, blink too hard and it's done. But what I wanted to ask you was, what are some words of encouragement that you could end Black History Month with?
Okay, I would say that I think we've seen, like I think I've mentioned before, it's like, and we were talking in our Black Future Month episode, it's like we are seeing a change, and people like acknowledging and at least trying to understand
Mm-hmm.
the Black experience, and at
Mm-hmm.
some, and understanding that unfortunately people who are Black, or as you could look at and see are Black, have some real
Mm-hmm.
face some disadvantages. And
Mm-hmm.
we've been, I don't want to say suffering, but we've been living through it in silence. We kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, especially here in Canada, I'll say, like, we kind of move along, we do our best, we get our education, we put our best foot forward because we're taught that we have to be more better than average. We're
Mm-hmm.
taught you have to be better
That's
than
right.
average to get somewhere, because you know our sometimes people look at us and we might be facing a disadvantage. And so
Such like an
what I'll
such like
say
Brian.
is, such as Black Brian, right? And what I'll say, and if you even using him as example, is no, stand up for yourself. You don't have to be
That's
you don't have to be
right.
loud and rah rah, but just
Mm-hmm.
put your line in the
Mm-hmm.
sand. Like if somebody
Mm-hmm.
says something and even me, I'm still learning to do this. I'm trying my best to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Is if somebody says or does something that's like offensive, or kind of
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of bordering on these microaggressions, or even like straight up racism, like call it
Mm-hmm.
out. Call it
Mm-hmm.
out, because I'm guilty of somebody putting out a racist joke, and I'm chuckling along, but I'm like, what? Wait a minute, like,
Right?
putting your foot down there. And like you said, the times are changing, everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and so take advantage of that. Like, just speak your
Mm-hmm.
narrative, your truth. Don't be ashamed
Mm-hmm.
of that. And because I think when you speak your truth, where you come from, where you're trying to go, people respect that. People want to connect, will connect with that. Don't think of your heritage, your Black heritage, whatever it stems
Mm-hmm.
from, Caribbean, African, wherever,
Mm-hmm.
South
Mm-hmm.
America. Don't let that be, don't think that that's a hindrance or something that will block you from
Mm-hmm.
connecting with somebody else or
Mm-hmm.
getting to where you want to be. Put it out there. Be proud. I don't think, and I
Mm-hmm.
think the times that we're in, people are
Mm-hmm.
embracing that. So that's what
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll share.
When I thought of this question, I had to really think to myself the answer. The question itself was a lot easier for me than the answer. What could I possibly, being that I am a Black woman, and the words of encouragement that I would like to leave is the future is what you make it. You know what I mean? The future is what we make it as Black people. And I want to big up Kanye for a second. We
Mm,
don't,
yeah.
tend to big him up. We always point out his flaws.
Mm,
But he really inspired me to think of Black history as not as a history,
mm,
but as a future. And so we can make our future very different than our past. And the people that came before us that pushed for us to be able to even have any opportunity to be seen as more than just property. Kudos to you. Thank you for pushing us forward. I am very grateful for that. But now we need to take the torch.
mm,
We need to take the torch and we need to move it forward in different ways. And I think that we are doing it. We are slowly from where we came from to where we are, to be able to see such of our culture in a halftime show.
yeah.
To be able to see ourselves be able to take a knee. you know um Times have changed, and so we need to continue to change them, and we need to continue to look forward to what our future could be. And I feel like everybody has to take up that small flame to that bigger torch, and go forward with it and think forward. Think, what can our future be like? Right now we have the attention. We have to be very wise with what we do with that. The example of this young man, Brian, he took a leap of faith
Mm-hmm.
because, like we said, his career, it could be a suicide for his career, but he believed in what he believed in so much that he was willing to change the total trajectory of his life and of any other black coach that came along. That he was able to harness this audience that he has to see what it is that he's trying to really do. And what he's trying to really do is break this cycle, break this nonsense, and change up what sports would look like. What the NFL could look like. And so that for me, he's changing something for the future because at least we're talking. At least we're trying to take the attention that we have of the world and put our struggle and so they can see it and now think of how can we make it better, how can we do something to change this dynamic. So my words of encouragement would be, keep pushing, everybody. We have to keep pushing. As hard as it might be, we have to think about the generation to come, and we have to make a better future for them. I know it sounds cliche and all of that, but it's true. So that's the answer to my own question. I know I got deep, but I had to think deep because I was like, I do want to say something that's encouraging and not, I don't want it to seem just like a cliche. I want it to be said from my heart because that's truly what I'm thinking for us as a black people. You know what I mean? So, anyways, what's your question, girl?
I was gonna. So last week when we were talking about, I asked a question about what's your favorite era in Black culture. It got me thinking, and I was gonna ask, what's your favorite Black movie? And when I say Black movie, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be directed or whatever. Just black,
Yeah?
whatever that means to you, pretty much.
Yeah. For me, Love and Basketball.
Mm.
Love and Basketball is one of my favorite. No, I don't want to say the favorite
Mm.
because that's a heavy title
Mm-hmm.
to hold, but it's one of my favorite black movies ever
Mm-hmm.
because it just shows the resilience of love. It really does,
Yeah.
and it was just so deep, and I like basketball, so for me it was like all wrapped up in one, and you're coming from the perspective of not a man in basketball but a
Mm-hmm.
woman in basketball, and
Yeah.
so and how over the years how she evolved as basketball being her first love
Mm-hmm.
to now this man being and her seeing the correlation that he too was her first love. um but yeah, that's my favorite. I love that movie so much. I can watch it a million times. It
Okay.
always makes me cry at the end, man. Always, every time without fail. I've watched this movie like a quadrillion times. Every time. Okay, especially that last basketball game.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so I asked a question, but I'm the worst person to ask what's your favorite anything. I really am the worst person because like you said, you probably have there's so many. And yeah, Love and Basketball is definitely on that list, but because you said it, I'll try and think of something else. Okay, okay, I just thought of. I'm going to say a classic for me since I was a kid, Coming to America. The
Yes,
original, the
yes.
original. So I'll say that one. There's so many, but I'll say that one. And so that's one of my favorite. And what I maybe it's because I saw it so many times, but you know when you're a kid and like you have your
Mhm.
parents bought VHS back in the day when I was very little in the early '90s. Yes, we had a there's a thing called a video. What is
VHS, yes. My
VHS?
parents still have one.
So yeah, we were that was one of the movies. So I seen that movie so many times as a kid. It's
Yes.
like I knew all the words, I knew all the
hmm
lines. But yeah, I'll say that one. But and more recently, I want to say I think I said this before, but I really want to encourage people to watch King Richard. King Richard, that movie. I think everybody black should watch that. It's not just
hmm
about these tennis greats. It's about a black family rallying together to attain their destiny. and being a family, supporting each other, sacrificing to bring everybody up. And
Mm-hmm.
also what it is, and especially now I've been hearing and seeing a lot of conversations about Black fathers, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a beautiful story about Black fatherhood. Very beautiful.
Mm.
So I'm gonna encourage everybody. That's definitely, now it's new, but it's already in one of my favorites. So I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
encourage everybody to check that out. And that's it.
Okay. Okay. Well, yes. Well, then gonna move on from the call out into the workout. And this is where we work out our hearts and exercise our mental fitness and do a deep dive discussion, on things that are impacting our culture. And particularly for this week, we are going to do it on Black History Month while Black. This is going back to, listeners, if you've been listening, you'll see that we do a variety of different segments on While Black. Well, this month, seeing that Black History Month is on the way out, we thought it was appropriate to do Black History while Black. Now, I'm going to start this out. So, for me, Black History Month has evolved quite a bit to where I started out as a young, very curious child, wanting to know more, wanting to see and learn more than just what they were telling me in the class, to now celebrating being Black in this month. And it is a celebration. And I want us to remember all the things that we have achieved. But it's also a segue for our future, a way where we can take time and maybe collaborate as Black people during this month, if you want to say, to pat ourselves on the back and say, okay, so what's next? What are we gonna do next? What are we gonna leave in history books? What are we gonna leave behind? And so, for me, Black History Month, like I said, evolving into now me understanding more and celebrating all of its richness, because our history is so rich and we come from like you, there's not a continent that doesn't have a Black person on it. See me? And so I want to ask you, maybe you want to segue into how you're feeling about Black History Month while Black. I do have other things that I wanted to mention, but just to open up this conversation about, Black History Month while Black. What does that mean to you, my friend?
To me, it's just like supporting all the events. Like, unfortunately, I've tried, but I'm not in an organization right now. I'm always looking for an organization to volunteer, and or nonprofit organization to be more active participant in my community. I'm still on the
Mm-hmm.
lookout, so any listeners have any recommendation, email
Mm-hmm.
us.
Please.
Our email is in our episode description, so let me know. But as somebody who's not in actively involved in an organization, I just try to participate as much as possible. Whether it's work,
Mm-hmm.
we have events at work, and I'll take the time to participate and be an active participant in those activities in the
Mm-hmm.
community, whatever Black History Month, or I'll even encourage my family, my niece and nephew. If there's any events, I'll be like, check this out, check this book out.
Mm-hmm.
Reading, just consuming, learning,
Right.
because even though we say, oh, Black History Month is not just a month, it should be year round, but I feel like this is a concentrated effort.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much content being pushed out around
That's
this
right.
time, with you can learn about history. It doesn't need to be history. You can learn about
Mm-hmm.
Black empowerment, how we talk about the
Mm-hmm.
future, how we can move forward and move our community and the race forward. There's stuff like that. Just being super cognizant of the month, and actively learning, and support, like we talk about,
Mm-hmm.
support Black business,
Yup.
support
Yup.
Black narratives, and
Yup.
that's how I do it. And we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about Black History Month while Black. I think everything I described,
Mm-hmm.
everybody, no matter what your race is, should try and participate. And I know, I get the feeling that some people feel uncomfortable. Like, if you're not Black, you might have this discomfort. But this is a time where we're happy. Like, there's so many organizations and platforms that are happy. That's what the point is. We want you to learn. We want you to ask questions. We want you to consume.
Evolve.
right? And so don't
Evolve.
feel shy or uncomfortable. Like maybe I know I've heard this rhetoric where some people are like, oh, they have a whole month to themselves. And if you want to understand why we have a whole month to ourselves, you could see like we in Canada, maybe people might find it hard to believe, but we have to understand the immigrant population here, the Caribbean community had a huge, you can read up on it, had a
Yep.
huge
Sure
part
did.
in getting immigrants rights to work, rights to get
Yep.
their paperwork. There's a, we played a big part in the immigrant community here in Canada. So that's another reason why it was really important that we got a Black History here in Canada. I know Honorable Jean Augustin, she's an MP, I think, in the West End. She was a person who brought Black History, made Black History official in Canada, and you guys could look up on that. But aside from that, sorry, I went back into memory lane there, but I just want people to understand, because I hear that sentiment, and I hate it, because I'm like, if you don't understand why us as a community
Mm-hmm.
needs to have a month to concentrate and learn and focus on our
Mm-hmm.
contributions, then
Mm-hmm.
you're really lost. You're really lost. You might as
And
well
and
just
I
put
think
on.
that I think Black History Month is very important for people in America and in Canada specifically, because our whole history began, so they say, in slavery. So we need to see something other than that.
Yeah,
We need to
it
see
didn't begin. It didn't
no, well,
manifest. No, wait,
that's the
wait, wait,
narrative
wait.
that I'm hearing a
Yes.
lot of when
Okay.
when Black History Month comes
Yes.
about, is
Okay.
that, you know, it's like our history was broken and segmented,
Mm-hmm.
and so yes, we need a month to actually regenerate. We need a month to actually look deep into what our contributions are, is because 11 months out of the year we're constantly facing battles left, right, and center. And so I think that it is important for us to use Black History Month as a way to educate ourselves, to feel valued as a part of history, period. Seems like our history doesn't seem to matter unless it's February. And so February is a month where we can really concentrate, and hopefully, seeing that it is so early in the year, help it help us to use that to guide us throughout the 11 months of the year where we have battles every day, every single day. So I think Black History Month, specifically for Black people, is a way for us to look at ourselves in reflection and realize that we are a part of the fabric of our society. Even in Canada, where do you think the Underground Railroad went to? Where do you think it went to? Like, it came up here in Canada, in Chatham, Ontario, to be exact. So yeah, we do need a history month, but we also need to use that concentrated time to elevate and to take it a step further, to help us get through the other 11 months of the year. So I think people should use it as a time, even if you are not Black, to elevate and evolve yourself on your thinking. To take this time that is so concentrated in February, whether, like I've heard before in other people will say, "Oh, well, it's the shortest month of the year." It is, yes, and that's why it's extra concentrated. That's why it should be in every single classroom. That's why we should teach our children. That's why we should really focus in on helping Black businesses and turning attention to, us advancing, and the different businesses that are helping us as a people to advance and to get into certain industries, like we were talking the other day about, Kanye West and the fashion industry. There wasn't a lot of Kanyes out there that were there. I don't even think there's any other than Kanye that has been able to penetrate such an industry. So, and somehow he was able to see for himself that I'm not just doing it for me. Eventually, some other kid who's, interested in fashion might see a book about me, and so that could definitely encourage them. And so with all that, I wanted to ask you another question about Black History Month. Now, what are some moments in History Month that your Black History Month that you feel are like really encouraging to you, like specifically in your life, like a part when you see that Black History Month starts? For me, I'll give you an example of what I'm trying to say. So for me, when Black History Month starts, I'm always like, oh wow, it's February already. Wow, okay, we're here in February now. All right, so that's when I'll start hearing more Black businesses in the area. I'll see different um, lectures that you might be able to see, catch via Zoom, or different movements that they're doing in the school system. And it draws attention. And I feel in my heart, I'm like, that's awesome. That's awesome that we get to see this. It's awesome that it's being brought to our attention. You know, so for me, especially being a mom, when I'm seeing more programs or more seminars for other teachers or other people to join that are in my community to learn about Black history, not just what they're told in textbooks, like to go beyond the walls of the school and to learn more about that. For me, I'm like, yes, Black people, we need to bring it forth. Use this attention right now to say, hey, this is what we've been talking about ourselves and where we came from and where we're going to go and how we have evolved and how we have changed even through the hardest of times. For me, I like to see that. So my question to you, so is there something about when Black History Month starts where it's like, yes, okay, this is good. I love that
Okay.
I'm seeing this.
Well, I'm very active on social media, and so I love when some of the pages and tweets is like when there's like the celebration of black, just our community, just blackness. And
Mm-hmm.
so we'll see things where you're like, not a Black History Month. So an example is when that whole thing with Whoopi happened, everybody was
Mm-hmm.
rallying around Whoopi and it was like, not a Black History Month, you're going to do this. This is the support,
Yeah.
or celebrating black male joy, or
Uh-huh.
celebrating black women being, taking care of
Mm-hmm.
themselves. These are some
Mm-hmm.
things that have been going on online that I've
Mm-hmm.
seen this month. So I think I just like the conversations that we hear, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
just celebration. Like you said,
Yes.
I it's history is important. It's always important to know history, but
Yes.
the history, like you said, if it's always focusing on, it needs to be acknowledged, but we know the history is not nice. It's
Mm-hmm.
not nice at all. And it's sometimes if you
No.
focus too much on history, as a black person, let me say this, as a
Mm-hmm.
black person, I think
Mm-hmm.
if you're non-black, it's good to understand. But as a black person, I've been hearing these things since I was a child. So
Right?
what I like is celebrating joy, celebrating
Mm-hmm.
success. That's the energy. That's another energy that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
like, I know all the typical stuff. And there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of pain there. There's a lot of pain
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we focus on joy, when we focus on building wealth, those things,
Mm-hmm.
all those things, that's I'm so
Mm-hmm.
happy to
Mm-hmm.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And to leave this on a good note, the next time you hear an episode, we will be out of Black History Month, but that should never leave our hearts. We shouldn't necessarily look so much at our past. I do believe that knowing your past is important to know where you're going. But now that we know that, where are we going? Where
Mm,
are we going?
mm,
And so each one of us needs to, within our own realm, figure out, where are you going? Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself as a person of color who specifically that are black that could help another black person along in any sort of way? I'm not saying you need to go out there and hold nobody's hand, but sometimes leading by example is the best example that is needed. And so each one of us has to figure out ways where we could try our very best to bring our brothers and sisters forward. We know where we are now, but where do we see ourselves? And so that's a good question that I want to ask all of y'all. Where do you see yourself in making, your own little stamp in history for our kids to have something to turn to and say, wow, this is where we came from. Where are we going? So, with that said, we hope that all your hearts and minds were activated on this week's show. Whether you lead with your heart or your mind, stay passionate and thoughtful. We will talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.